What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson, and the New York Giants may have landed a steal in the final round of the 2023 NFL Draft. Safety Javarius Owens out of Houston. This is a player who has starting potential by a lot of analyst standards, and he even had a fourth-round draft projection by Lance Zierlein of NFL.com. He's an elite athlete. He was a 4-year starter for Houston and was a team captain. They might have found something special here, guys, and we're going to go ahead and discuss what we think about him, what analysts are saying about Javarius Owens, and what he could bring to the table for the New York Giants in year one. But before we dive into all of that, make sure to leave a like if you do enjoy this episode. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Ring the bell so you don't miss an episode. Comment your thoughts on the topic down below, and if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review. But without further ado, Alex, how are you doing today, my friend, and what are your thoughts on Javarius Owens?
I'm doing great, man. I hope you're doing fine yourself. And Javarius Owens, really interesting player, a team captain for Houston. And you know what? The Giants. The Yankees are on my mind because of how freaking bad they are. If you're a Yankees fan right now, right now is a terrible stretch to be a Yankee fan. It is just abysmal. And, taking a page out of the Giants handbook, a lot of injuries. But looking at the Giants, they are going for players who are a little bit more reliable. And I think that's kind of exciting, athletic, reliable. And the Giants hopefully can mitigate a lot of these injury issues they faced in the past. But a guy like Javarius Owens, obviously a late round pick for this team, it's going to be an interesting kind of developmental process for him, but he could be a nice little late round gem, even if he ends up being a really nice special teams piece, because ultimately Javarius, like I mentioned, a captain for a long time with Houston, 4-year starter, a guy that really traditionally played that free safety role, had a 4th-round grade and ended up being like a 7th-round pick, right? So you look at where the Giants got him, the 4th-round grade there definitely indicates there is some potential. There's some upside there. Now, NFL has him as an average backup or special teams player. Athletically, he's the 5th-ranked player at safety in this draft class. So you're seeing, again, the Giants have gone for athleticism in this draft class. A lot of the players, at least 90% of them, are high upside guys because of their speed, their athletic profile, their size, and he's got great size to be a pretty solid safety at the next level. The question is, can he refine some of the weaknesses in his game? And there's a couple, pretty prominent ones to say the least, right? The primary one, he dropped a couple interceptions. His ball skills are not very good. He misses a lot of tackles. Now, he is very willing as a tackler. He gets up into the run game. He gets downhill fast. Sometimes his pursuit angles are pretty bad, giving me shades of Curtis Riley. Definitely something that could bite him in the butt in the future. But I kind of feel as though this is another high upside player athletically that the Giants, with good coaching, you look at guys like Jerome Henderson, our DB coach, one of the best in football, might be able to get the most out of a player like this. The Giants got a lot of value out of Nick McLeod last year, someone who shouldn't even be on a starting roster. Guys like Zion Gilbert, who was absolute garbage, but still on the team nonetheless. A lot of these players, Fabian Moreau, who we scooped up off the waiver wire right before the season started. We got a lot of value and a lot of production out of guys that otherwise shouldn't have been playing on this team. So when you look at young guys like this, like the Rodarius Williams type, say barring that ACL injury, maybe he would have developed into something decent. You like to see these kind of players because the Giants don't have much depth at safety. Now that Julian Love is gone, you have Dane Belton. Of course, you go out. We got that other guy. What do you remember his name is from Washington?
Bobby McCain.
So decent player, but is he our strong safety? Probably not. I would probably favor Dane Belton as the primary starter there to open the season. But losing Julian Love is certainly a big blow. What do you think his role can be as a rookie? Given he makes the roster, a lot of 7th-round picks don't even end up making the roster a lot of times. But his instant impact, do you think more so probably a gunner, punt team type of guy? Someone that's going to compete on that edge, and then hopefully maybe develop some of his skills. Refine some of the weaknesses that he showed at the collegiate level, primarily the tackling capabilities, the angle pursuit, the pursuit angles, and then of course the ball skills. So, what are you seeing for him as, a day one player for the Giants and what he can offer this team immediately?
Yeah, I actually think that Owens can make a pretty surprising impact from day one. If you take a look at, his athleticism, as you've mentioned a few times here, and if you look at what some executives are saying, this was from Matt Lombardo today of Heavy Sports. He tweeted out that an AFC executive described Javarius Owens in this way, quote, "He has starter ability, will get on the field immediately on 3rd down and special teams," end quote. And listen, that's definitely an exciting quote to hear. And again, you take a look at the draft projection that this kid had. He was a 4th round projection. To be a middle round prospect means that you're probably getting on the field pretty soon, but they drafted him in the 7th round. So yes, he has something to fight for. He has to prove that he's worthy of being on this roster. However, his talent might shine through pretty quickly here. He did block a punt in college, maybe 2, but I know at least of 1. He blocked a punt, and it did lead to an end zone recovery for a touchdown. So we know that he can contribute immediately on special teams. So Javarius Owens, one of those guys who, am I saying that he's going to be one of your starting safeties this year? Absolutely not. But he will see playing time, in my opinion. I do think that he has more than enough athleticism to hold up at the next level. I think when you look at some of these later developmental prospects, kind of like the player that we talked about yesterday out of West Virginia, wide receiver, Wheaton, when you're looking at these prospects, athleticism is what will get them on the field. Having the ability to develop into something better than what they currently are. And again, with Javarius Owens, had a very elite relative athletic score of 9.21. He's 6 foot, 193 pounds. He put up a 37.5-inch vertical, 10 foot 5-inch broad jump. His 40-yard dash time wasn't the fastest at a 4.57, but his 10-yard split was a 1.54, indicating that he accelerates to that top speed rather quickly and can get downhill in the box very quickly. And then, of course, his composite agility grades were elite because he ran a 6.75 3-cone drill and a 4.09 short shuttle drill. So when you're looking at that stuff right there, shows that he's got quickness and athleticism. Another thing that's going to help him get on the field in year 1, versatility. Javarius Owens was not a pure safety. He actually started his collegiate career playing cornerback, and then they moved him to safety. So when you're looking at a pro-style defense like the one that the New York Giants run, they like to get a lot of defensive backs on the field on 3rd down. Those dime packages, right, where you have 6 defensive backs on the field. Well, maybe you want a guy out there like Javarius Owens in the slot because he is a safety with cornerback experience. So that little bit of versatility gives him the ability to not only get on the field in some creative ways, but also to be a backup at more than one position. It's very important in the secondary more than any other unit, except maybe offensive line, to have players that can play in multiple positions. And that's really how Julian Love cut his teeth at the beginning of his career in the NFL. If you all remember, Julian Love drafted as a slot cornerback, then they tried him out at free safety, then he started the final 8 games of the season at strong safety when Jabril Peppers went down with an injury, then he moved back to free safety, back to out wide cornerback, slot cornerback, and then finally settled down as the strong safety starting for the New York Giants in 2022. But listen, he wasn't going to get on the field that soon as a rookie 4th round pick if not for his versatility and ability to play multiple positions. And Javarius Owens has that same ability to line up all over the defense. This is a guy who played corner. This is a guy who played a lot of free safety, and he also has the height and speed and tackling ability to play strong safety. So you're going to see him on the field. He can develop all of those skills, get used to the speed of the pro game on special teams, and then hopefully get into that kind of everyman role on the defensive side of the ball. So that's what I envision for Javarius Owens, and I do believe that he can make that impact and play that role really quickly in his career. So in year 1, do I think he ends up stealing a starting job alongside Xavier McKinney at the safety spot? No, I don't think that's going to happen. That's an unrealistic expectation. But will he play a lot on special teams? Yes, and that will give him the opportunity to develop those skills. Again, get used to the pro-style game, get used to the speed. It's a much quicker, much more physical game than it is in college. He can get used to it on special teams and then hopefully start to get some snaps on the defensive side of the ball. But it is a little bit of a crowded backfield right there for the Giants defense, right? You do have guys like Cordell Flott, who projects as a potential starter in the slot. You've got Aaron Robinson coming back from injury. He wants to play in the slot. Rodarius Williams is still on the roster. Maybe he wants more playing time at out wide. Maybe he moves into the slot. It's a crowded room in the cornerback area, but then again, at safety, yes, Xavier McKinney is one of your 2 starters, but Bobby McCain's going to be competing for that role as well. Javarius Owens is likely to try and get his name into that mix, but there are a lot of defensive backs on the Giants roster right now. So, Alex, do you feel like that's going to prevent Javarius Owens from getting onto the field? The amount of talent that the Giants already have in their secondary. I know that not a lot of it is very good talent, but a lot of these guys were high investments, 3rd round draft picks like Cordell Flott, Aaron Robinson, other players like that, and Javarius Owens being a 7th round draft pick. Do you feel like his priority level, getting him on the field, is not nearly as high as some of these other guys, and that might ultimately prevent him from seeing playing time defensively?
I mean, absolutely. Dane Belton right now is in my mind our starting strong safety, right? Bobby McCain, sure, a good supplementary piece to Julian Love. He has versatility. That's what you're looking for. When you're replacing Julian Love, you're looking for a guy that's versatile that can fill the different roles if you need be. But Javarius Owens is nice and versatile, as you mentioned, has a lot of cornerback experience. He could be that kind of big nickel corner if you wanted him to kind of fill that role. So do I see him making an impact early on in his career on the defense? Probably not. But if the injuries arise, and they often do, the Giants may have no choice but to call on a guy like this, right? So there could be an opportunity down the road where they need his support, and he could step in and maybe make some plays and have an opportunity. But you don't want that to happen. Of course, you want guys like McKinney, you want Dane Belton and Bob McCain to step up and stay healthy. But like you said, the secondary has some decent pieces. A lot of them are young and inexperienced, or rather just maybe not the best based on their historical value, but. Owens does have the athletic upside. If you watch his game, as I mentioned earlier, the pursuit angle can sometimes be a little bit off. And I think that's mainly because of how aggressive he is. He's going for the big hit, right? He's a big hitter. He gets downhill north-south very fast. Because of that, he can oftentimes take the wrong angle. I said Curtis Riley earlier. He was never really like that. He just took the angle because I think he's failed geometry. So I just don't know if Javarius Owens is kind of like that. But I think he's different. I think he's more aggressive in the sense that when he goes after a guy, he may miss those tackles because he's flying at 100 miles an hour and he just blows right by them, or he just misses tackles. He's going so fast and they're just a little bit shiftier than he is. So he's got good size though. At 6 foot, 195 pounds, maybe even gains a little bit more weight. Probably not though, because he might lose some of that speed and that agility. But one of his weaknesses is certainly like breaking on the stem of routes. He doesn't have that like above average like break, but that's why he probably transitioned from cornerback to safety. And his vision can sometimes be a little bit cloudy. But when he does get his eyes on the football, his eyes on a route, he's reading the quarterback's eyes, he can do some good things for you. He can lay some big hits and he can make some plays. And while he has dropped a couple interceptions in the past, if he catches those, the narrative might be a little bit different right now. Maybe we're talking about a player who had a third round grade if he caught those interceptions, but because he didn't catch them, it was one of the big weaknesses that are listed on most draft projections and most draft scouting websites. So that's kind of the issue there. But do I expect him to make an impact on defense? I don't expect him to, and I don't really want him to, because if he is, that means someone else is injured and we had no choice but to promote a 7th round rookie into a prominent role. So in my opinion, like you said, let him kind of develop on the special teams, let him carve out a role. He's the perfect gunner. Like, that's the perfect guy you want a gunner, right? He's fast, he is north-south, he's aggressive, he can freaking lay the wood, and you love to see that from a gunner. And ultimately, I think that's where he's going to make an impact early on as a core special teams player. A couple of these guys could do that, but given the fact that he's a safety, I do think that he'll be, good kick return kind of defensive player. Good gunner on the punt team, can do some stuff, block punts, block kicks, whatever it might be. And then, of course, he can develop his game in the defensive backfield at the same time. And you never know if you're going to walk into a gem. And another thing to point out here is the intangible traits, right? He was a captain at Houston. So aside from his athletic profile, he knows how to lead, and he's a leader, and he's got a good voice, and he can, rally the troops. And those are the type of guys you want developing. Those are the type of guys have good work ethics. So I think the Giants have done a really good job not bringing anyone in that would be a questionable character that may, cause some sort of problem in the locker room. Instead, I think Javarius Owens is going to be a solution. He's going to be an asset intangibly. He's going to be a leader despite the fact that he's not really fully developed and he's still learning the game. But I think you want guys like that, their personalities in the locker room, because even if they're not playing a lot, they're keeping everybody else happy. They're keeping everybody else fresh and excited, and they're keeping everybody else honest. So I do think that is a variable that we haven't really touched on, but I do want to let you give your take on that.
No, I mean, I think that his leadership capabilities are a huge part of the conversation here. I mean, how many times have we heard Joe Shane and the New York Giants say that they want smart, tough, dependable players? They want leaders. They want to make sure that everybody that they're drafting is a culture fit. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that the Giants did bring in Javarius Owens for a pre-draft meeting, so they probably have some good idea of who he is as a young man and what he brings to the table in terms of his quality of leadership. And again, they probably did their extensive research and scouting, talked to some people at Houston. They know whether or not he was a good team captain, and I believe that he probably was, and that's one of the reasons that he is on the New York Giants roster right now, because especially when you're looking at day 3 in the draft, when those players start falling to the late round, to the later end of the 7th round, a lot of them are being drafted because you don't want them to get to the undrafted free agency, right? You don't want them to become free agents. So for the Giants to take this final pick and invested into Javarius Owens, it says something about him. It says that they saw something in him that they needed to get him on the roster and not risk him signing elsewhere as an undrafted free agent. So I think that's kind of a vote of confidence from the Giants coaching staff. But again, we know the mantra of the Giants coaching staff and their front office. We know the type of people that they're looking to bring into this building, not just the type of players, but the type of people. So Javarius Owens being a captain of that defense for Houston, again, it just screams that he is a culture fit, and we know that the New York Giants, they are making sure that they invest their draft picks into players who will fit their culture, and I think that they did that on numerous occasions in this class. They got a lot of guys who are leaders. They did last year as well. We know what a leader Kayvon Thibodeau turned out to be in year one. We know what a leader Evan Neal was when he was in Alabama. So you've got a lot of these prospects out here that have these leadership qualities, and again, kind of just trying to see who can fill that Julian Love role this year. I think it's going to be Julian Love by committee, essentially. Bobby McCain's going to go out there and play that role quite a bit, being that everyman who moves around, that utility piece. I think Dane Belton does the same thing. We've seen him play in the slot. We've seen him play at safety. I think there's just going to be a lot of positionless defense out there for the Giants. And Javarius Owens, again, while I don't think he's going to be ready to play immediately, he has the qualities that this defense requires him to have. He can be one of those positionless players, move around, and he's a very smart player with leadership skills. So I do think that there is a future here for Javarius Owens. I don't think that this is one of those camp bodies that gets cut before he sees a snap in his rookie season. I think that he could be an instant impact player on special teams for all the reasons that you mentioned, a great gunner, but also adding in the fact that he has a lot of versatility in the defensive backfield, plus he is a damn good leader. All of those things, just combine them together. I think this is a pretty exciting 7th round draft pick. It's very rare that I see a 7th round draft pick that I actually get excited in, but this one right here, Javarius Owens out of Houston, I really like this pick. I think this was a little bit of a steal from the Giants. This was a guy who was supposed to go in the middle rounds. He fell all the way to round 7, and I think that the Giants found something here. I do believe that Javarius Owens can have a pretty quality career in the NFL. I don't think this is your typical run-of-the-mill 7th round draft pick who's out of the league in 2 years. This guy has those leadership qualities that we just mentioned. He is perfect to play on special teams based on his athleticism, and again, I think that he went way later in the draft than people expected him to, indicating that it was a value draft pick and indicating that there's probably more talent than ultimately realized by his draft stock to his game. So I really like this pick. I'm pretty excited about it. I do think that there is a path here for this guy to become a starter in the NFL, but I want to know your thoughts down below in the comment section. What do you think of the Javarius Owens selection? How much of an impact do you think he's going to make in year one? Let us know down below. And again, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new, ring the bell so you don't miss an episode. And if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review. Without further ado, we will catch you all in the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.